salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, let's go ahead and start with a roll call, please.
Chris Mortensen,
Here.
Charles Long, Michael Shaw,
Here.
Priscilla Benali,
Here.
Kevin Mitchell.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and start. This is a special board meeting today. We'll get into the business here in a minute. I don't know if I like seeing everybody this early in the morning. Everyone's kind of bleary-eyed from the weekend or something. It's kind of early. I'll entertain a motion to approve today's agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mitchell. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Benali,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen.
Yes. All right, the first item is the approval of virtual public school. This is why it's an important meeting today, so we have an option for the fall time. Let's turn the time over to Ms. Hanks, and we'll get started.
President Mortensen, members of the board, you have in front of you in your packet, there were 5 responsive offers, and as you can see, the one that has been selected is Graduation Alliance. If you have any additional questions, Procurement Director Chrysler is here with us today.
Can you step us? One second. Can you step us through the selection process and how this whole thing went?
Sure. President Mortensen, we put out an RFP. There were multiple entities that actually responded to the RFP. 5 were considered responsive offers. The committee that was brought together reviewed all 5 offers. And then the one that was selected, as you can see by the scores, was the Graduation Alliance in combination with Open Ed. It is a group of individuals who actually look at the criteria that was outlined in the public RFP that makes a determination based upon the responses that were provided by the vendors.
It looks like this Graduation Alliance crushed everybody in the interviews. What did we like best about them in the interview process?
Mr. Mortensen, as President Mortensen, as I was not part of the committee nor part of the interviews, I will bring up Director Chrysler.
Good morning. Just so you know, I wasn't directing those bleary-eyed comments towards you. It was mainly our security and tech department in the back row that we were talking about.
Okay, you can pick on me anytime, boss.
President Mortensen, members of the board. So in the interviews, it was very clear that the team that interviewed with us, or with the committee with Graduation Alliance and Open Ed, was very thoughtful on the district's needs. They directly answered all of the committee's concerns, specifically around issues that we had dealt with in the past. So very specific questions were asked on student data, on accountability for following through on New Mexico state law and standards for education. They really showcased a genuine concern for what the district wanted versus maybe a kind of a corporate response. So that definitely set them apart. There was critical thinking that you could see in their responses. So of all of the firms, they were the only one who directly addressed those burning questions that we had to ensure that we did not run into any of the same problems we have had in the past.
When, some of the problems that we've had in the past, one of the ones that's really difficult initially, at least, is teacher-student ratios. Are these, how familiar are they and embedded with New Mexico law or whatever, to make sure that they'll be in compliance and have enough people?
So President Mortensen, members of the board, one of the things that they did, they focused on the teacher ratios. They were also the only firm that currently has contracts with New Mexico school districts, and they have a contract directly with the New Mexico Department of Education. So of all of the firms, they were the ones that showcased the most experience and knowledge of what it would take to get teachers very quickly hired and able to handle a virtual school this fall. So that was one of the things that they were the committee was impressed with, and they addressed all of our concerns about that they would tailor their program to what we wanted. And if there were certain numbers that we wanted to comply with, also in order to comply with New Mexico law, there would be no issues or concerns with them doing so.
Were you able to check out like their online platform? And I mean, how did that feel for our kiddos, do you think?
So President Mortensen, members of the board, we have not, after the consent vote, the next step will be going into a little bit more in depth in discussions with this particular firm, including negotiations. I did do research on background of the company in order to find out if there were any concerns that the board may have or the district may have later. And there were some negative articles kind of way back in 2020, but they were based around more criticism towards the New Mexico Department of Education, not specifically around their particular contract or their performance. So everything that we could find, or everything I could find, was very assuring that this company can handle our needs. And then the next step is to really look more into their solutions.
How'd you like their student to counselor ratios? I know that was one we talked about.
Yes, President Mortensen, that's a very good question. That was another burning question that we had. We also asked for qualifications of those who would be student advisors, and they, again, provided the best answer in the response and addressed how they would ensure that these students were supported by qualified and experienced personnel, and that they would also match the ratios that we required in order to ensure that these students are well supported in the program and successful.
Super. Board members, do you have any questions? I know Ms. Benally's got some questions. You better be ready.
All right.
Thank you. Dolyat Bene, thank you for being here. My colleagues, it's nice to see you all. Of course, this is a really big decision for us, and I was ready to ask for this scoring sheet for all the RFPs that were submitted, and we found it, so that was my first question. Thank you for the information you provided. You mentioned a couple of things about student data. And I think one of the things we had an issue with was not getting the student data from the other company, the previous company. And then you also stated they would tailor to what fits our needs. Are both of those in writing, or will they be in the contract? Because it seemed like we were trying to, since they were a for-profit entity, they didn't have to abide by a lot of the guidelines or a lot of the stuff that we were asking for, even through the state of New Mexico's policies and regulations through the state of education. So that's my first question.
Member Benally, President Mortensen, yes, that is the first step that they did to provide assurance to the district and to the committee is they accepted all of our requirements. And I will note that there were very specific contractor requirements that we wrote into the request for proposals, and there is an acknowledgement and an acceptance form that they must sign in order to agree that when they submit their proposal, they must follow all of those requirements. The committee also issued several questions for the interview process, and of all the firms, Graduation Alliance directly answered every single one of those questions and gave commitment to them in verbally and in writing. So we did get a written response to those questions to make sure that, again, we had the documentation. The next step following a vote by the board will be to go into a negotiations phase where we actually vet the contract terms, and those contract terms will be driven by the district and not by the firm that responded. And I believe that that was one of the issues that we ran into in the past, is a lot of the terms and conditions that were in the contract that the district ultimately signed and executed had a lot of terms and conditions that were provided by the company and not provided by the district. So that is something that we are absolutely addressing in this particular contract.
And one of the things that, I don't know where these companies are located at, but I hope they're more sensitive to our area of the Southwest. You know, the last one was from back east, and I think that was hard. So where is this company from?
So I know, Member Benali, President Mortensen, I know that the particular gentleman that I will be meeting with after, assuming that the board approves and does a consent vote, that he is located in Boston. The company was originally founded in Salt Lake. Now, the company has been operating in New Mexico since 2020. Now, most of their contracts are in the southern part of the state, Las Cruces, Dulce schools, some of these Truth and Consequences, so some of these smaller districts. And they have not had a direct presence in this corner of New Mexico, other than their contract with the New Mexico Public Education Department it's called Engage New Mexico. It's actually a free program available to students in order to get academic assistance, so tutoring and other types of services to help them. And I did not get specifics on exactly if they are working directly with students in, you know, this part of New Mexico, but they have been operating in New Mexico, whereas the other firms have not.
So, well, that was going to be my next question. So the other entities here have not worked in New Mexico at all?
Member Benali, President Mortensen, that is correct. They may have, now there was one of the companies that did put in an offer that is our prior provider. They, of course, have worked inside of New Mexico. I do know that there is somebody with one of the other providers that did not make the short list, and she is based, I should say, I believe it's their CEO is based in Ruidoso, but she just recently moved there. So their company itself has not provided actual educational students to New Mexico students.
My other questions are, you say you're going to, after the board vote on whichever entity, there's going to be a negotiation. In the contract and the negotiation, if we start to see some concerns, as we did in the previous, what are you guys going to include that will help us step away from the company if we need to?
Member Benali, President Mortensen, one of the key requirements, terms of the contract, is a termination for convenience. So we can cancel the contract at any time with a 30-day notice for convenience. Therefore, we are not required to provide any, like a cancellation for cause or go through another process. So that is one of the contract terms that we ensured was in this contract. And it's very clear in the actual contract that if we're not happy, we can go on to another, we can go through the process to find another provider. One of the other things to assure you, members of the board, is that should there be any problem during the negotiation process and they do not accept the terms and conditions of the final, written contract, we do have the legal ability to go to the next highest ranked offerer and open up discussions and negotiations with that offer.
Is there a pretty big drop off between first and second in this?
Mr. Martinson,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know what our board policy on that, but if that does happen, sir, that there's no offer or the negotiation doesn't work, I would like to meet again as a board, because that's a huge decrease in the points, and maybe talk about opening a backup RFP opening the RFP back up again or something. But I would like to meet again if this negotiation doesn't, go well, sir.
I think that's reasonable. Kind of circle the wagons back up, depending
So-
on how this negotiation goes.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that termination of convenience will be included in there. I think that was one of the biggest struggles we had also. With any one of these that we select, and we get to a point where, it is likely that they'll be accommodating our students online, can we please request for a presentation so we can ask additional questions about their teacher-student ratio, whatever we feel that is important for us, because I think we saw some concerns, and we would like to address them ourselves. So that would be
Member
something I'd like
Benali
to request.
and President Mortensen, yes, absolutely, as part of the negotiation process, that is an option that we can have. We can hold discussions with this firm, and we can also, they can provide, and in fact, they have expressed a willingness to be able to provide any other information necessary to the board and to the district. So there's no concerns as far as that part is. There is some level of restriction that remains on the actual documents that remain confidential, kind of a cone of silence while we go through the negotiation process. And so, again, there's a process that I can go through. There's a way that I can involve the board members in that if necessary. And that's just in case. So New Mexico procurement law actually has a statute that says that certain items need to remain, in the proposal, need to remain confidential or until that process is completed, so that it is not made available to a potential competitor.
And my last request would be an annual report from the company to provide, because we didn't hear anything from the other company. And I think it'd be nice for them to do a presentation annually to the board. I don't know, is this an annual approval? Is this a 5-year, a 3-year? How long is this contract going to be for?
Member Benali and President Mortensen, so the term of the contract can be for up to a maximum of 10 years, but it is on an annual renewal basis. Now, that is accepting the very first term, given the fact that there will be a lift, an implementation period. The first contract term is established as being for 2 years. Again, though, we have that cancellation for convenience clause, so we're not held to those 2 years. That's just was more to give a new company assurance that we are going to commit to also working with them to ensure that this program can be successful. But ultimately, yes, they have offered, so they will meet as often as the district would like. With some school districts, they meet weekly, they can meet monthly, they could present quarterly, and they absolutely would, at minimum, present annually.
I think one of the things that we heard from also that was a struggle was a point of contact. And I think just having that one point of contact for our schools, so the schools could, who they need to talk to, because I think that was something that was hard. So I think having somebody that is assigned just to us or something would be great. But the other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to thank, I don't know what their new name is, K-12 Incorporated, because I think we learned a lot from their mistakes and what they've done to us. So I think that makes us better. We're more better. We want to see what we need to do to better our online program, and that's what they taught us. So I'm very thankful that we are more aligned and critiquing and putting ourselves in the forefront, and taking more ownership of the contract than the other way around, them taking ownership of us, because our kids deserve to have a wonderful online experience and not be neglected. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So with that, board members,
Wait, I got it.
oh, go ahead. Yes, Mr. Schaaf.
Will they be able to provide hotspots of different
Yes.
companies?
Good
This
question.
last one was Verizon only, And there was people that were on AT&T that Verizon wouldn't reach them, so.
Member Schaaf, President Mortensen, yes, that was another one of the clarifying questions. In their written proposal, there was a sentence that had again raised kind of that question. We wanted to ensure that our students would be able to have the technology that they needed and the connectivity that we needed. And the company absolutely agreed with that, that it would, that they were happy to be able to collaborate with our team in order to be aware of the individual student needs based on where they're living. So yes, that was absolutely one of the questions that was
Thank you.
asked by the committee. Thank you.
Stride told this family, Verizon's it, and tough luck. And our IT department came up with an AT&T hotspot for them, so, yeah.
So it sounds like the recommendation is after all the evaluation and everything from the committee and stuff, the recommendation is to move forward with Graduation Alliance, Open Ed, is that
Mis-
correct?
President Mortensen?
Yes, yes.
I was just wondering, I had a question on.
Oh, yeah, sorry, back up.
Background checks. Are they going to be having to be upheld through New Mexico Public Education background checks as well as GMCS?
Member Mitchell, President Mortensen, yes, absolutely. They wouldn't be able to have qualified and certified teachers without going through the background check process. So that, again, they had no concerns or issues with complying with that. That was a very easy yes from that company. So yes, that is.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Sir?
Yes.
How are they with their athletic students? Because is that how can I say this? Do we arrange that as a district, or do they do that? I guess is the question.
I'm going to.
Member Benali, yes, we will organize that to ensure that those students that are in line with the program have the ability to compete in athletics.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members?
No, I
Okay.
would like to make a motion of approval of Graduation Alliance and Company Incorporated for the virtual public school.
Okay. Does that sound good? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Mitchell. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Benali,
Yes.
Mr. Schaaf,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen.
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen, I just want to
Yes, ma'am.
again, just add a word of caution to our administration. It's heartbreaking to go through what we went through. So please just continue to keep our children first. And, it's hard to trust somebody else when you've been burned. I'm just saying that to provide that caution for our kids. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Will you, Ms. Benali, provide a motion to adjourn, please?
Sure, sir. I motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schaaf. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Benali,
Yes.
Mr. Schaaf,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen.
Yes.
8:24.
We're adjourned.